to be honest, I never seen before the flux tube connecting in such way as we can see here. This is something completely new for me. Before, all the time when the direction of flux tube was changing, we had inflows of particles to the current rings, and this was stopping the connectivity from moving further into the night side. It looks, however, that a couple days ago something changed, and now the low energy field is not preventing the flux tube from moving towards the night side of Earth. This shift changed quite a lot in the connectivity points, because now if I would have to point out the connectivity points over the surface of Earth, they would be placed now in completely different parts of the planet. According to those images, around 20 UTC on the last day of May, the negative connectivity covered almost entire night side of our planet. If those images are correct, then it means that around that time the negative flux tube connectivity looks like this. And because I set the time in Google Earth to the same point as on the monitors on ISWA, we can check where exactly the negative flux tube was connected at the given time. And it is visible here that the connection covered a huge area between the Philippines and the Eastern Africa. Of course, it is confirmed on the HMF2 monitor, where you can see that the connectivity point is placed exactly as on my drawing. I think it is the time to leave the space and move closer to the surface of our planet, because I would now like to speak about the influence of the equatorial magnetic connections on the weather patterns. I've spent the last couple days on looking for a solid evidence that the flux tubes which are connecting to our equatorial belt are capable to affect the atmosphere and our entire environment. My main goal was to find any visible changes in the atmosphere directly under the flux tube openings. However, I failed. It seems that the weather conditions directly under the openings are affected only in a tiny way, or even are not affected at all. But then I realized that my efforts are just a big waste of time, as the flux tube opening is hovering high above the surface, around 580 kilometers above the surface. But as I said a couple times before, the flux tube is not a physical object. Of course, it is being shaped by energetic particles, which include the mass. However, the shape of the tube is very flexible, just like in the plasma ball toy. That means that the main tube can have many branches and form something what look like a lightning. So the ground level is influenced mostly by the smaller tubes, which connect themselves with the main field line above the atmosphere. But this is just a part of the entire process. You need to keep in mind that even if I describe a field line as a negative or positive, in reality it is made of two smaller field lines with opposite current flows, as there is no current flow without the plus and the minus. It means that I have to update my model and draw blue field lines right next to the red ones, just like here. You can guess if the main field line is positive or negative by checking which direction of particle flow is stronger. If we will notice that the outflow of particles is stronger than the inflow, it means that we are dealing with the negative field line, even if we are capable to see some particles being injected into the atmosphere. And now when we learned how the magnetic connections work like, we can look at some satellite imagery. So if you want to look for an active magnetic connection, we need to watch air masses with opposite properties that are placed right next to each other, just like here, where we can see two belts of air masses which have completely different humidity and temperature. To say it shortly, we have here the plus and we have the minus. I can tell you already just by looking at the shape of the clouds which field line is in this case the positive one and which one is the negative one. Here we have the negative connection, that means the one responsible for the outflow of particles, and here is the positive one, along which the particles are moving into the atmosphere. Okay, it's time to run the animation to show you how the connection is taking place. But first I need to warn you, those images can be somehow disturbing. Even if you won't see here any blood and violence, the size of those magnetic tentacles should be enough for you to imagine how small we are comparing to the forces which are responsible for those anomalies. This image shows nicely the direction of current flow, which is opposite for the negative and positive field line. It is a good opportunity to look at some different METOP satellite images, as some of the filters make it possible to watch the field lines directly, as not always the magnetic influence has to be connected with cloud formations. Here, for example, the negative field line can be noticed only because the lack of particles over the area where the field line is placed. The problem is that this filter doesn't work during the night, so every day there is that hole in the data between 6 p.m. and 6 in the morning. another nice filter. This one is being used to track the snow in the atmosphere. However, we can use it as well to track the magnetic connections. And another filter. Look how big is the magnetic tentacle. It is reaching across the entire Western Africa and stretches above the Atlantic. You can easily see the field lines which shape the atmosphere in this region. Now look how the electromagnetic forces are affecting the behavior of water vapor. Here is our tentacle. Now this is interesting. It looks that in the night between 1st and 2nd of June, field line above the Northern Africa changed the way of its connection. Around 18 UTC, we can see that the field line started to behave in different way. And this is the time to show you my favorite images. I think that those pictures which were captured by METOP satellite make the best visual evidence of all my claims about the electromagnetic forces shaping the environment on our planet. This is what happened when the connection above Northern Africa changed. That means around 18 UTC on 1st of June. I mean, this is really incredible. Look here. I think that we are seeing here how the magnetic field line passes through the cloud layers and connects itself straight to the crust. This reconnection caused a physical wave in the atmosphere. This wave is a physical evidence that the electromagnetic forces are real and they are visibly shaping our environment.